Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. He doesn't know any better. Follow up. Original post. My parents, dad is 54 and mom is 52, are angry with me for not ignoring my older brother's 32 predatory behavior. Just a little context about my older brother and the situation at hand. My brother is 32 years old. He's never had a job. He dropped out of community college after 2 semesters for never doing his assignments. He's lived with my parents his entire life. He sleeps all day and stays up all night playing video games and watching adult vids. Both my brother and I, 27 male, are diagnosed autistic and present our symptoms similarly. But I've been working since I was 17. Got my driver's license at 17, bought my first car at 24 and started college in 2019. My parents constantly use my brother's autism as an excuse for his appalling behavior, even though we're both on the spectrum. In November of 2020, I moved back in with my parents because I left a horrible relationship and had chronic health issues. I met my current girlfriend, 23 female, in mid-2021, and in early 2022 she had some extenuating circumstances where my family agreed to let her live with us. My brother was immediately pleased with this development, but just as quickly behaved inappropriately. It started off with him creepily staring anytime my girlfriend and I kissed, progressed to him following my girlfriend into the bathroom anytime he saw her go in there for a shower, until he figured out she always locked the door because of him. And the straw that broke the camel's back was him trying to come into our bedroom uninvited and without knocking, at 3 in the morning while we slept. Every time he behaved inappropriately, we mentioned it to my parents, but all that really happened were excuses made for him, because he's autistic, and brief conversation with him about not doing those things again, and then him still doing whatever he wanted. Anyway, after the bedroom incident, they kicked my girlfriend out, making her homeless for a brief period of time, because she had a PTSD panic attack since my brother made her feel unsafe. As a result of this, my girlfriend and I got an apartment together, and I moved out because I didn't want to be in the same house as my brother. I was upset with the way my girlfriend was treated, and I wasn't willing to break up with her, which my parents wanted me to do. I had a calm conversation with my parents explaining why I was moving out, where I explained it's their house so they're more than entitled to make rules concerning their own home. However, I was not going to continue living somewhere my girlfriend wasn't welcome, and where my brother's predatory behavior was condoned. At first they told me they love me, they're sorry they ever made me feel that way, that they want me to keep a key to the house because I'm always welcome over, and that if I ever needed to move back and I could. Several days later, I went over to pick up some more of my things, only to find that my parents had changed the locks on the door. Later that same week they tell me they're angry with me for being ungrateful, saying I hate them, and calling them bad parents, none of which I ever said. They went on to tell me that they didn't want to speak to me for a week because they were upset, needed time to process, and because they thought I needed to feel what it was like to be cut out of the family. I respected their wishes, and later my parents agreed to family therapy, which they quickly backed out of because they were only willing to do it over a 3-way video call, and my therapist website wasn't able to do that. I'm not sure why, but my therapist said it wasn't doable, at which point I told my parents I would be willing to attend family therapy with a therapist of their choice who could do the 3-way video call, but that had yet to happen. That same Sunday my parents invited me over for dinner, which I thought went well, only to find they would continue to dodge my calls and leave my texts on read after that night. They eventually contacted me and told me to stop using their house as storage and to pick up my things, despite requesting that I stay away for a week. My girlfriend and I go over to pick up the rest of our stuff, which was awkward but quick. Later that day I got a text from my mom wishing me luck at college, but my parents still aren't willing to talk about the issues that led to me moving out, or even to come over to see our new apartment after being invited over, because despite the circumstances I still love them and want a relationship with them, since this type of behavior is highly uncharacteristic of them. Understandably, my girlfriend isn't fond of them, but told me she doesn't mind me inviting my parents over because it's important to her that I have a relationship with my parents for the sake of my mental well-being. Has anyone else ever dealt with a situation similar to this? If so, how did you deal with it? Honestly, man, I would just cut your losses for now with your parents and brother, go start your own family and be happy. Maybe they will come around sooner or later and y'all can actually start rebuilding your relationship when they are willing to listen to your words. They're giving excuses to awful behavior with your brother, and therefore he will never be better. They don't want to acknowledge their own bad parenting with him either. I know it's hard to lose a relationship with your family, but they seem like they are always going to show favoritism to your brother for little to no reason other than coddling. If you really want to repair the relationship, I can't see how you would do so without there being several serious discussions with your parents that they are receptive to, or at least become receptive to eventually. In my opinion, it's not worth feeling unwelcome in your own home, your girlfriend getting kicked out over your brother's awful behavior, and them getting angry at you for you not liking how badly they are coddling your brother if they won't listen at all. Maybe some time apart and some strict boundaries with your parents could give you both some time to sit on things and think about what's going on. Then you could come back to them and try the conversation again. Also, putting some space between you will make it easier to say no to the inevitable. We're getting older. Now it's your turn to take care of brother in a few years. When you do try to start your own family, make sure your brother is never allowed around your wife and children. Your parents aren't willing to do the work to repair the relationship. They want you to chase after them to prove to themselves that they are right and you are wrong. Time for you to drop the rope. Stop asking them to come over. Stop calling. Stop telling them anything about your life. They would rather protect and coddle your brother rather than admit there is a problem with his actions. You can live your life and still love them, but you don't have their support. Love them from afar and love yourself and your peace of mind more. They have done nothing but make excuses and hurt you. They have shown you who they are. Believe them. It hurts, but you need to drop the rope. The ball is in their court. I don't believe they will pick it up. This is sound advice. I wonder if they contact you when you aren't contacting them. Then they crap on you again. Think of it like this: you stop, they start, you stop, they reel you back in. Continue the loop. Next time they contact you, just give them a pass and watch them start to grovel for your attention the more you ignore their offers. I want to suggest that you let your parents know that in the future you have no intention of allowing your brother to live with you, nor will you be responsible for his ongoing care. They majorly contributed to how your brother is today, so they need to be responsible to ensure whatever arrangements needed for when they are no longer able to care for him are in place. Example, if they leave him their house to live in, they better make sure he is capable of doing what is needed to keep it up and pay the associated utilities and whatnot, or have an organization that will do that part for him. And congratulations on moving out on your own. I made it very clear 2 years ago that after they pass, I will not support my brother in any way, shape, or form. He's actually hated by the entire family for his behavior with the exception of my parents. My grandfather outright told me that my brother's choices and lifestyle bother him so much that I'm in his will and my brother isn't. Now for the first update. I've been working through some things in therapy and I had a bit of an epiphany. For years, I thought my parents were giving me a favor by letting me live with them, but things started to unravel the more I thought about it and talked to my therapist. I'm currently 27, but I didn't start living on my own until I was 22 and always thought I was a failure or a late bloomer. But then I remembered I tried moving out on my own when I was 20. I found a friend was willing to be my roommate at that time, and we were apartment hunting together. I eventually told my parents I wanted to move out, and my mom told me they wouldn't be able to afford the rent for their apartment if I wasn't there to pitch in, and my dad asked me, "How are you gonna find a roommate? You can't even find someone to hang out with you on your birthday." When I lived with them, I didn't give them all my money from work, but I could never save more than $500 because they would inevitably fall behind on some bill, and I would have to help. And a lot of times I didn't have the money to help, so it was normal for me to sell my things at a pawn shop to pitch in, which was never asked of my older brother. I only had to stop contributing to my parents' finances once we were homeless in 2018 and reconnected with my extended family who let us couch surf, and they told my parents they thought it was weird I gave them so much money. When my parents lived in New York and I lived alone in Texas for 2 years, I was actually thriving, with the exception of my horrible ex and chronic health issues. I dropped 120 pounds, I was on the honor roll at my college, and I bought a car. I was doing so well. Later, my mother admitted to me she was actually angry and resentful toward me for getting my first job at 17, because the government took away my disability money that she was managing. I feel like that's one reason why my older brother is still treated as the golden child. He still gets disability that my mom manages 100% and is fairly obedient to her. It just made me think, wow, sorry I'm such a disappointment because I wasn't an obedient little disability check for you, and I wanted a life of my own. I was also molested in my school in first grade by a neighbor's teenage son, and when I asked my mom why she wasn't more protective of me, she said, "I was so concerned with making sure that never happened to your brother, that it never occurred to me that it could happen to you." I used to think my parents were very moral and ethical people, but the more therapy I go to, the more I'm noticing patterns. For example, my mom was always doing research on narcissists and claiming that all my grandparents were narcissists, and that's why we went no contact with them for over a decade, which at the time when I was a kid I believed her. But then I realized a classic narcissist tactic is to isolate people from others who can help them. I even remember being a freshman in high school and my mom scaring me by convincing me that my grandfather had hired private investigators to stalk us, which, knowing my grandfather now that I'm an adult, is something he'd never do. Sorry for the rant, but I needed to get this out somewhere. I'm so sorry you had to go through this, but I'm glad you were able to finally find answers. Sadly, favoritism is a thing, especially with narcissistic parents. My mom would favor my older brother more, and in general was an absolute leech. She not only sucked the money out of anyone that she could, but she also sucked the life out of me. Therapy helps a lot with finding answers and trying to come to terms with the outcomes of it all. Just know that you are a strong person, and any battles you are struggling with, you will come out of it stronger. Thank you, that's really appreciated. Now that you know you have a narcissist mom, at least you can steel yourself up to make sure you don't fall for her manipulation. I hope you have learned to say no anytime she asks for money. Let them deal with their own crazy without getting yourself into it. Good luck and try to keep them out of your life as much as possible. Now for the latest update. A while back, I, 27 male, shared a post in this group about my older brother's, 31, inappropriate and predatory behavior toward my girlfriend, 23, and how my parents were condoning and making excuses for his behavior. The excuse being that he's autistic, so he doesn't know any better, even though both of us are autistic, and both of us are considered high-functioning and low support needs. Anyway, since the incident, my girlfriend and I have gotten an apartment together and things have been going well. My parents have been very low contact because they're salty that I didn't dump my girlfriend and excuse my brother's creepy behavior. During this whole situation, my grandfather has been nothing short of a rock for me. He and my step-grandmother have been offering me advice, helped me get career counseling services, wants to help with my tuition now that I'm back in college, and have offered to buy plane tickets for both my girlfriend and I to fly cross-country to spend Thanksgiving with them and get the opportunity to introduce my girlfriend to them. He's been very clear that he sides with me on the disagreement with my parents because he doesn't agree with my brother's behavior, and has stated the obvious that my parents don't seem to grasp, which is that I'm a grown man and can date who I want and live my life as I see fit. I feel really lucky to have him around, but at the same time, I'm still incredibly frustrated with my parents. I have a large extended family, and I've heard through the grapevine that my parents want me to move back with them, but on their terms, and they're going low contact with me to teach me a lesson. And all I can think is, what kind of delusional fairy tale world do they live in, where I would abandon a healthy relationship with my girlfriend and having my own place, to move back in with them, just to be the scapegoat for all of my brother's BS. You'd be surprised at how delusional some autism parents can be about their autistic offspring. They've centered their life around your brother and therefore assume that you are as reliant on them, when in reality, you've grown wings to fly away. Let them think they're winning and quietly block them on social media. You'll be the healthier for it. P.S. As an autistic person, your brother's autism is no excuse. He's just a prick. The thing is, my mom can barely even claim to be an autism parent. We've both been diagnosed for over 14 years, and I had to explain to her what stimming was last year, which shows me she doesn't know a damn thing about it. She just uses autism as an excuse whenever my brother acts like a pervert. One day your brother is going to learn the hard way. Sucks that you'll actually have to successfully victimize someone to see charges though. I was talking about him grabbing someone, and their boyfriend doesn't take that very well, and long story short, brother in hospital. I would honestly pay good money just to see him get beat down after all the nonsense he gets away with. But he won't do that since he's a coward and a shut-in. The only reason he targeted my girlfriend is because my parents, brother, girlfriend, and I were all living together at one point, and he thought he could get away with it sharing a living space, since any retaliation would be met with his mommy coming to rescue him and justify his behavior. Brother is going to creep the wrong woman one day, and I highly doubt the judge will accept he's autistic as a defense. You're not wrong, but knowing my mother, she'll get the creep a good lawyer. I have to wonder how your brother is going to function once your parents pass on. He won't, and I will laugh watching him struggle to figure out adult life for the first time in his 50s or 60s. This is why your parents want you to come back, to be the caregiver. I already told them years ago that when they die, I'm not helping him and he's on his own. Yikes at them using their kid for disability income, and then making him pay them once he started working. And I don't understand them kicking out the girlfriend when brother barged in. Makes zero sense unless OP neglected to mention that there was a big argument or fight over it afterwards. Whole thing is very bereft of details, honestly, but sounds like OP thrives away from his parents, so good for him.